From Screen Junkies Studios in the heart of Los Angeles, this is Screen Junkies Movie Fights. Now your host, Andy Signore.
Surprise! Welcome to Screen Junkies Movie Fights. Andy Signore is still away on some top secret Screen Junkies business. So in the meantime, I have been deemed worthy. Woo! I'm Alicia Malone, aka Red Fury, and I'm so excited because we have some incredible fights today, including the best moment in the Star Wars trailer, the best Bill Murray performance, and the best Australian actor.
I wonder where that question came from.
It's for you, kiddo.
Yeah. Also want to remind you that if you want to skip a fight at any point, you can use the Pick Your Fight feature below. And if you'd like to hear an audio version of this show, subscribe to our RSS feed on iTunes. Also, don't forget to rate and review because we love to hear your thoughts. All right, now it's time to announce these fighters this week. We have such a great bunch. First off, you know him. You love him. He's my co-host on Profiles, also a film critic for Access Hollywood, and he knows a lot of movie dates. Scott Mantz.
Yes! It is great to be back here on Screen Junkies Movie Fight. The most fun I've ever had talking movies next to Profiles with you, Alicia Malone.
Oh,
Nice.
shucks. Don't try and suck up to me.
Darn!
And making her debut on Movie Fights, it is the wonderful, the intelligent, the pink-haired senior editor of Rotten Tomatoes, Grae Drake.
Thank you. I would like to mention I'm contractually obligated as a pink-haired person to bring up Gem and the Holograms in theaters now.
Oh, no. And look who we have in the third seat.
Oh, boy.
Oh, it's not just the Movie Fights reigning champion.
Hi.
It's the People's Champion from Screen Junkies, Dan Murrell.
Yeah,
Hi.
Dan! Woo!
Don't let Mundy hear you say that. He'll bust right through that wall.
So let me clarify. The belt is not on the line. This is
No.
just like a practice sparring match for
This
you.
is for fun.
This is
I miss
just for
doing it
fun.
for fun. I got the chance to do it for fun, so why not? Let's have a good time.
Let's have a good
Yeah.
time.
Look at
you.
Come
And you had a
on.
great time last week hosting. You did such a good job. So
Thank you.
I'm going to do my best in this seat. But to help us out with the facts on the Spenny Cam, I guess we're calling it.
Yeah, why not?
Spencer Gilbert.
Spend cam. Yeah. How's it going, guys?
Good. Your place looks nice. You've decorated.
I've really, brought a nice personal touch to this dank basement that I've been stuck in. It's great.
And who's next to you on the fan cam? It's Stacey Howard.
Hi, Screen Junkies. What's up? Thanks for having
Stacey.
me.
Woo.
Thanks for coming, and thanks for being a redhead.
I know. I'm trying to bring the Red Fury to the team. So.
Yeah, Ginger Ninja.
That's right.
Before we get into the fights, I want to remind you guys, we have a store at District Lines. Great t-shirts, lots of cool merchandise. They're also having a sale through to the end of October, so go to districtlines.com/screenjunkies and get to spending. Okay, now, you know the rules. It's not about my personal preference. It's not about the best movie choice. It is about the facts, the passion, and the creativity. The argument wins here. So you can forget bribing me.
Passion. It's all about passion, baby.
Well, Mantz has
Love
us all beat on
passion.
No
passion.
bribing. What kind of joint is this?
So, in the words of Ron Burgundy,
Now let's do this!
This is where we fight!
Fight!
round one.
Woo!
Now, as my Twitter feed told me time and time again this week, the final trailer for Star Wars Force Awakens was released. There were such a lot of great moments. So Disney Marvel fan asks, what was the best moment in the new Star Wars trailer? And Mantz, we are starting with you. The floor is yours.
Okay, here's the best moment of the one and only final trailer, because the other were teaser trailers for Star Wars The Force Awakens. The best moment was not what we saw, but what we heard. We're watching the trailer, and we're seeing a lot of things that we already saw in the other two teaser trailers. We saw Han, we saw Chewie, we saw a split second of Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia. But when we heard the John Williams score kick in, recalling the Han Solo and Princess Leia theme from The Empire Strikes Back, that was truly where I got the chills. And the reason I got the chills, because as we all know, The Empire Strikes Back isn't just the best Star Wars movie by far. It is also one of the greatest movies of all time. And dare I say it, it is the Citizen Kane of Star Wars movies.
Here we go.
I forgot to put that in the rules. You're not allowed to say that phrase anymore.
But strike that from the record.
Point deduction.
But But when you heard that theme, because it is the first time you really heard that theme since Return of the Jedi. They recalled it in Return of the Jedi. But that moment in The Empire Strikes Back on the Falcon, when their Falcon is parked in the asteroid and Han kisses Leia, and then at the end of The Empire Strikes Back, when the Falcon takes off to look for Han after he's been frozen in carbonite, this movie really hinted at the true potential of what The Force Awakens can be. It'll wipe the slate clean from the prequels, which we can all agree were not very good, and it can actually establish The Force Awakens as a great Star Wars movie and as a great movie, period. It hinted at the potential of what The Force Awakens can be, and if it's as good as The Empire Strikes Back, baby, I think we will all be very, very happy.
All right. Grae, you're up.
I think that it's safe to say that everyone lives in two worlds right now, a state of constant exhilaration and also abject fear about this film, because we need, as a people, for this film to be great.
Yeah.
We need for it, at the very least, to be just better than the prequels, but I think that with such a large buildup, we need it to be phenomenal. And the deck is stacked. It's going to be rough, right? I argue that the best moment from the trailer also is a moment that exists in the teaser, which is the Lucasfilm logo. And I'll tell you why that's the best moment of both the trailer and the teaser. It's because it's not about seeing the Millennium Falcon. It's not about seeing X-Wing fighters. It's not about getting a view of all of these new characters. That's immaterial compared to hope. And that is Star Wars. And when you were sitting in that theater, and when you were just thinking like, this is going to be a trailer, it could be a trailer for a new Adam Sandler film. I don't know.
Oh, boy.
And then the screen was dark. And all of a sudden you heard, ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. You heard the little jingle jangles of the Lucasfilm teaser with the way that it was right when it opened in the beginning. Just in the theater, all of a sudden, just everybody flips out, and that same kind of energy. Look, I just knocked over my
You got
water.
so excited. Easy.
I got so excited because even though in the trailer that moment doesn't exist at the very beginning, it still doesn't matter. You've seen all these things, but all of it pales in comparison to the hope that logo presents, and that's the hope that this movie is going to blow our minds. It's going to erase all of the fears of the past.
Ugh.
And is going to truly lift us all up as a nation.
Your mouth to God's ears.
Alrighty.
Yes.
Good one.
A nation of Earth.
Okay, Dan.
So my favorite moment was the Han Solo speech when he's talking to who we assume to be John Boyega and Daisy Ridley's characters. It certainly appears that he is. When he says, you hear him in voiceover, it's true, all of it. The dark side, the Jedi, they're real. And this got me excited because I have to commend J.J. Abrams and Disney and Lucasfilm for not giving away this movie, which is awesome. They could have given away all the money shots, and they haven't, which I think is fantastic. But this is the first time, like, the first two trailers were fun, and they got me interested in the new movie, and I'm like, oh, look, cool, Millennium Falcon, oh, that's awesome, like, but what is this movie still? And that little snippet told me all I needed to know about this film, which is that we now live in The Force Awakens in a world where the Jedi, Darth Vader, they're myths. They're tales that have spread across the galaxy. Nobody knows about these. And when you have those words, it's not Luke saying that. When you have those words coming out of Han Solo's mouth, that also tells me that he is going to be their guide into this new world. In the same way that Obi-Wan Kenobi strangely was in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, where he introduced Luke and Han and everyone to the world of the Force. And keep in mind that Han Solo is a character who, when we were introduced, was literally sitting back and laughing at all of this and saying hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side.
Kid.
And now he's the one that's bringing people into this, and the heaviness and just you could tell that this is something that meant to him. So this got me excited for the movie because now in this final trailer, they have at least given me an idea of what this movie is going to be, and I like it. And it gets me more excited for the movie. So that's my choice.
All right. Okay, so I've heard your arguments. Now you get to counter-argument and say why your choice is better than the others. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I agree. Grae, seeing the Lucasfilm logo at the beginning of a teaser, that's exciting. And Dan, the biggest takeaway from The Force Awakens was that 30 years after the events of Return of the Jedi, this younger generation doesn't even know about the great battle between the Empire and the Rebellion. So,
It's like kids today.
but it's also like the philosopher George Santayana said, those who cannot remember history are doomed to repeat it. That's what the biggest thing we took away. But in terms of the moment that got under your skin, the moment that gave you the chills, when you hear that theme, that is really what did it for me. And I went, well, oh my God. And this is coming from someone who was a bigger Star Trek fan than a Star Wars fan. Full disclosure, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one, but I still do love Star Wars. I love The Empire Strikes Back. That theme reminded me of what Force Awakens has the potential to be. That's why I can't wait for December 18th.
Well, this is what's amazing about Star Wars as a whole, and that even though we're arguing different points, I think the whole thing is amazing for different reasons.
Absolutely.
Star Wars is more than just music. Star Wars is about so much about what it embodies inside of us. And what I think the things that we all pulled from Star Wars when we first saw it, whenever that was, that's the reason we even care at all right now. It's not even that the movies are that complex or that they, on the surface, to a casual fan, right? They're not like the most complicated storylines. They're way more. They're way more than the sum of their parts. And so today, they mean something to us because they're lodged in our hearts.
Okay,
Plus,
Dan.
by the way, Han Solo, I don't like the Han Solo that like feels a lot of stuff.
Okay, well, we can go into that, but specifically versus your two choices, Scott, I agree that the music is great. For me, the music is, and I think I even argued this on this show a year ago, the music in the first one is what got me excited because that's the first time you're seeing this imagery with the John Williams music again, and it's great. We're on the third one now. The music has been in all of the other ones. So for me, it was great to hear that particular piece of music, but I'm more interested in seeing where we're going and not where we've been. The prequels were laden with heavy-handed references to the original trilogy. So while it was great to hear that music, the glimpse of what's to come is what excited me the most, as opposed to a look backward, because we spent now 30 how many ever years looking back at the Star Wars trilogy, and I'm much more excited looking forward at what's coming. And the Lucasfilm logo, just on a personal level, I did not grow up in a time of wine and honey where the Star Wars movies were great. So for me, I get that there's a new regime in charge now, but seeing that Lucasfilm logo kind of gives me the chills in a bad way because I associate it with not good things. I know that George Lucas isn't there anymore, but I saw it in front of the special editions and I saw it in front of the prequels, and so for me, that I was just kind of like, oh, get past it.
Oh my
Okay.
God, let's get you
just
shock therapy so you can forget that and just remember what it's like to see 4, 5, and 6's logo.
But again, I think both of those are a look back. I think both of those are a look back at what we've already seen, and I'm much more interested in a look forward and what the movies are going to bring.
Not a shock here. Just look at my hair. I'm definitely the oldest person here, and I saw those first 3 movies when they happened. And yes, that was a time when seeing the Lucasfilm logo, which didn't look like that back in the original releases. It was completely different. It was very like Helvetica font.
Yeah.
But the music, when you hear the main theme and when you hear the Imperial March and when you hear Han Solo and the Princess, that says Star Wars at its finest. And if The Force Awakens is Star Wars at its finest, everybody wins.
Okay, to finish up, Grae, just your last 10 seconds of why the logo is the best part.
Oh my God, the logo and the sparkles and the hope and all the feels, and it all shows up for me when I see that moment, because in that moment, everything is encapsulated right there.
Alrighty, ding!
Ding!
Spencer, any cleanup?
Pretty factually clean. Just want to note to Mantz that this is nothing new from John Williams. There's a guy named Frederick Lloyd that remixed and arranged his classic scores for the trailer.
Okay, good to know.
Alrighty, so this is what I'm thinking. I like, Scott, what you're saying about the theme, because I definitely heard a lot of fans being super excited about the love theme and what that could mean and how it connects back to Empire Strikes Back. Grae, I agree the Lucasfilm carries a lot of hope, but I think Dan shot you both down with the idea that this one is a look ahead, and that's what's so exciting, of what's to come rather than where we've been. So Dan gets the point.
Dan, the man! Oh, Dan! Way to go, Dan.
Thank you.
Don't worry, plenty more chances to get on the board and another Star Wars question coming up.
At least it won't be a shutout, so that's all I care about.
Here it is, round 2. So one thing the fans were wondering about the trailer and the poster was,
Where's Luke?
where's Luke? Where's Luke Skywalker? And everyone is wondering what his role will be. So we want to know, how do you think Luke Skywalker's role in The Force Awakens should be? Should it be good or should it be evil? And Grae, you're starting first.
He should be good, but he's going to be broken down. The title itself indicates that the Force is dormant. So when we open in this film, Luke is far away from the action. He's really gone through a lot emotionally. He's put his father to this is a lot for the poor Jedi to handle. So he's just going to let everything unwind. He's just going to let the whole thing just unspool. So what we find is that the Empire is strong again. Nobody's come to really rally any troops against it. And so everything is kind of crumbling, right? And everybody's having trouble and everything is falling into disrepair. And here's Luke. He's far away. He's just got a farm. He's got a family now. And so something happens. And at the cantina, Phasma and Finn have assaulted a cantina bartender. This starts the whole, this is an avalanche that is going to roll through the entire film. Luke finds out, not because he's in any way connected to any of the activities over on the at the cantina, but because his faithful friends, R2 and C-3PO, who he's still hanging out with, who are with him, they alert him to the fact that the cantina people, they figure that this is the moment, that they've been dormant for too long, and so they call for help, and they call for Phasma, they call for their heads, right? So what ends up happening is Luke decides this is the moment. I gotta call Han, I gotta call Chewie. I'm gonna jump back into the mix. I think this is the moment that we're going to figure out how to finally bring these guys down, right? Kylo Ren, Snoke, they're at the top of things, and they're going to fall too, just like his father did. So you've got a whole bunch of bounty hunters who are on the lookout for Phasma and Finn, right? And Maz Kanata is one of those people. She's kind of thinking that she's great, she's going to take them down, it's going to be really easy, and she's disgraced. She leaves, and it's up to Luke. Now, there's a chance meeting between Luke and Phasma, right? Where Luke she finds a lightsaber on him. She beats the crap out of him because she has no idea who he is, right? And he's got to be nursed back to health by his buddies, okay? And then what ends up happening is he finds out, after a big, huge, crazy, confusion, that Phasma somehow has gotten a hold of his buddies. C-3PO and R2 have been dismantled, and this is the thing that gets Luke in there into a huge final showdown between Phasma and Luke, in which Phasma loses. And Luke wins a victory for the Jedis. He accepts his role once again in society, and then he leaves society to continue the fight against the Empire.
Oh, I like it.
That's pretty detailed.
Broken Luke, and then he comes up. All right, Dan, you're next.
I know this isn't going to be the popular stance, but I think Luke should go evil. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Star Wars, at its core, has always been about the fight for a Skywalker soul. The prequels were about the corruption of Anakin Skywalker. The original trilogy was about the redemption of Darth Vader and also the attempted corruption of Luke Skywalker. Now, we know what this movie's called, which is The Force Awakens. Now, to me, this says that the Force has gone dormant. It makes sense. The two biggest dark side, we have, because we're getting rid of the expanded universe is non-canon, so we have a clean slate here. So don't throw books and stuff at me, because it's not. I didn't decide it. Disney did. So we know that, the Emperor's gone, Darth Vader's gone. There are no other Jedi. Leia might have it, but she's certainly not been trained. Luke is alone. There are no other Jedi in the galaxy. And I imagine that he's probably did what Ben Kenobi did, which was, live a life of solitude, because he is alone and he's seen some stuff. He's seen some stuff that's not easy to deal with. So we see in the trailer Kylo Ren saying to the burned Darth Vader helmet, "I'm going to finish what you started. Now, most people are taking that to mean I'm going to rebuild the Empire, but what if he's saying, I'm going to finish bringing Luke Skywalker to the dark side. You started it, you couldn't do it. We know that he has some kind of Force mind control powers or something, but I think even more than that, the Skywalker family fatal flaw is jumping into something short-sightedly in an attempt to do something good. Anakin Skywalker ended up being Darth Vader because he was trying to save his wife's life. Luke ended up getting his hand cut off because he was trying to save his friends and fight Darth Vader before he was ready. So what if Kylo Ren is, because he has a mask on, what if in a way he is going after Luke in an attempt to say, hey, let's restore order and balance to the galaxy. Things are a mess. People are fighting. What if he's influencing him somehow? What if Luke is being turned to the dark side? What else would bring his best friend and his sister Han and Leia back out to the galaxy, back to his rescue? I think that this would be an interesting direction to take Luke, because the mentor role, Qui-Gon Jinn lasted one movie. Ben Kenobi, the Alec Guinness version, lasted one movie, and there's a reason for that. Is because if you have an all-powerful mentor who's just there to go like, hey, here's a lightsaber, there's no tension there. That's why they had to go so quickly, is because the tension is, how are these people that they've been mentoring going to find their way now? So I think if you're going to set up a trilogy with Luke Skywalker and you want it to actually have some drama and you have some stakes, this has to be about his friends trying to bring him back. He's lost. He's a lost Jedi, and we have to awaken the Force in Luke Skywalker and bring him back to the good side.
Back from the dark. All right, Mantz is itching there. Go for it.
Okay, here's the deal. Both of you hit on very good points, and I don't disagree with either of you. He could be evil. It would make sense that Kylo Ren would finish what Darth Vader started, trying to bring Luke to the dark side. I also agree with you a lot more that Luke has issues he's been dealing with for the last 30 years. He has his hand chopped off, finds out his father is the Dark Lord of the Sith,
Daddy
and
issues.
then he has to beat the crap out of him until the point where he can't fight back and he dies. And then what happens after all that huge, huge battle to win back the galaxy over the Empire just 30 years later, and people have forgotten it? It's just been 30 years. It'd be like 30 years after the end of World War II, people forgetting about the Holocaust. That is the stakes, or is the biggest stake of what's going on here in the Star Wars, The Force Awakens. So I'm sort of taking a little bit of what both you guys are saying here. The biggest from you, Grae, is that Luke is bitter. He's a recluse. He's living out in the hills, maybe on Tatooine, maybe someplace else. Why would he ever go back to Tatooine? It's just a desert planet. No, he's not there. But he's definitely bitter because people have forgotten about the very thing that he fought for and paid dearly for. So he still has the Force, but he's given up on the rest of the galaxy. Now, what did we learn in The Empire Strikes Back, and especially in Return of the Jedi, is there is another Skywalker, and that Skywalker is his sister, Leia. Leia has the Force. My guess is that she can't control it like Luke has been able to. So, if anyone is going to bring Luke back into the fight against the new Empire led by Kylo Ren, it's going to be his sister, Princess Leia. That is the only way he's going to feel justified in reliving history, and this time getting it right by defeating the Empire once and for all. It's got to be... Star Wars has always been about family. The first movie, A New Hope, was a battle between good and evil. Second movie made it personal, father versus son. And then Return of the Jedi finished that off. The prequels, well, we all know what happened with the prequels. But, this is a battle between good and evil, and it's going to happen all over again because we are going to repeat history because we obviously haven't learned from it. And Luke is going to be brought back in by Leia. He is going to train a whole new group of Jedi. He doesn't have to worry about winning over Han Solo. Obviously, Han is on his side now. But, without getting into too many details, I think that's basically, he starts off indifferent, but he turns good. That's going to be the arc, not of The Force Awakens, because I think Luke isn't going to really show up until the end. And that for the rest of the trilogy, that's going to complete his arc from going from being a recluse to once again fighting for the rebellion and the Force.
Alrighty, so Spencer, I might need your help with some of this, so just be on your toes.
You got it.
Because as you heard from me try and say Luke Skywalker before, it's not my forte. It's not my forte, but I know a good argument when I hear one, so I'm going to open up the floor and get you to explain more. I'm going to start with Mantz. So what happens with Luke in this movie?
Well, this movie, we
Specifically.
haven't seen Luke in the poster. We saw it's probably his hand reaching out to touch R2-D2. Probably his, especially because it's covered in the glove. And as we all know, that's the hand that got chopped off by Vader in Empire Strikes Back in 1980.
It doesn't even look like they gave him the good prosthetic.
Seems like a step back. Seems like a step back.
They've been very, very wise. You keep in mind, remember this movie's directed by J.J. Abrams, who tried his darndest to keep everyone from guessing that Khan was the villain in Star Trek Into Darkness. Secrecy is his forte. And other than, again, the takeaway, Dan, that you pointed out before, that we're going to have to do this all over again. We didn't see anything in this new trailer, not imagery, and we've already seen all the heroes. We've already seen the Falcon, the TIE fighters, the X-Wing fighters, Poe, all these people, Han, Chewie. We've seen it all. There was just this one takeaway that you pointed out earlier. Where is Luke? That's the big thing. You think that Mark Hamill wouldn't want to be on the poster or be in the trailer? He's not, and that's because he's not going to show up until the end, and he's not going to be in great shape. He's going to be bitter, and the rest of the trilogy beyond that is going to be him coming back to the light side.
All right, you guys. Thoughts?
Well, I think that Luke. What we know about the Force from unfortunately the prequels over-explained it, but from the original trilogy as well is that it's very organic.
Yeah.
And so I'm not so much thinking that Luke is a Jedi Knight. What if the Force has left him? Again, like I said, it's called The Force Awakens. If the Force has gone away, which, again, we know that we don't quite understand what the Force is. But if the Force has gone away, by the way, could be by the machinations of... I don't think Kylo Ren is the big bad in this new trilogy. I think we're going to be introduced to maybe the most powerful Sith Lord that we've seen yet. And we know that Sith Lords are capable of great power if they're good enough. So if the Force has gone away from Luke, I could see why this would push him into being kind of manipulated or in some way influenced by Kylo Ren in an attempt to regain the Force or to restore balance to the galaxy. So I'm not so much on he's a recluse with the Force, he's just hanging out alone because he wants to. I think something has to have happened to him. And again, I think I'd like for him to have a big part in this movie because I feel like, I agree, he's not going to be a huge part in Force Awakens,
right.
But I'd like for his arc to start because I think by at least 8 and 9, he needs to be all the way back and with our heroes and fighting alongside them again. So I would give him a little bit more of a role. And I liked your story. It was really, really awesome. It's like a great, like I can see that being like a great standalone Star Wars movie. My main thing when I was listening to it was just like, there's so much to do there. And we already have all these other characters. I'm wondering like, where are we going to find the time inside of episode 7 to tell that story? Because I think it's a really cool story. It's just, I don't know if there's enough real estate for it.
Yeah.
Luke is going to be a huge part of the whole film because he's not on the poster and because we haven't seen him. So they're not going to leave him out of this movie and they're not going to save him for the end. He's going to be a huge motivating force somehow, even if the job is to bring him back. Even if Leia's tasked with that, he is going to be there from nearly beginning to end, I'll guarantee you.
I completely forgot to mention here Daisy Ridley. A lot of speculation that she is Luke's daughter. If she is Luke's daughter,
right,
and Leia is her aunt, then she has the Force too. And she's going to learn, she needs to learn how to control it. That is going to be another factor on why Leia brings Luke back over to the good side of the Force. Because it has always been personal. Star Wars is about family, a very dysfunctional family in the extreme. Mm-hmm. But that is what is going to pass this whole conundrum, this whole conflict onto the next generation.
Precisely why I argue that Luke starts this with a family. Because the way of the Jedi is very similar to the way of a samurai, and that's not a family life, which is why I think that he has turned his back on all of this, because he's the last one. Now he's just going to do what you do, which is like make love to a nice lady.
But Star Wars has always been about surprises. Some of them earned, like in Empire. Some of them not earned, like in Jedi. But in Empire, we learn Vader is Luke's father. In Jedi, we learn that Leia is Luke's daughter. In this one, sister, sorry. Leia's Luke's sister. Thank you. Caught the Sorry, Spence!
Way ahead of me.
But in The Force Awakens, we learned that, sorry, I'm a little nervous here. Sorry, in The Force Awakens, we learned that Daisy Ridley's character is Luke's daughter. I mean, again, not a huge surprise if it happens because it's what people are speculating, but I think that's where this is going.
Star Wars and Fast and the Furious are about the same things.
Yeah.
I was about to say, when you said Star Wars is about family, I was like, wow, Vin
Mind
Diesel.
blown. All right, closing arguments. Dan, do you think the fans, how do you think they would react if Luke was evil?
I think they'd react well if it was done well, and they'd react poorly if it was done poorly. I mean, fans get attached to characters, and I feel like you can take a character on a journey, and if it's just people strike the whole thing with Darth Vader, like that was a story that the fans were excited to see that was executed poorly.
Yeah.
So I think if it's done well, if Luke is treated, if it's not just a lazy like 1940s villain reveal, if they actually go in depth and you tell more about Luke Skywalker, because he got a little bit of short shrift in the original trilogy. You didn't learn much about Luke.
Yep.
So I think if it's done well, they'd react well. And I'd also like to add that Mark Hamill pitched J.J. Abrams on this idea like 10 years ago.
Oh,
No way. Wow, dang.
Damn.
all right, Spencer, I'm going to need some help. First with facts.
Well, yeah, it's all speculation, so it's pretty factually whatever.
Yeah. I mean, some of those names, I was like, I have no idea.
Yeah, just to clean up for Drake, your story included a fight at a cantina. Was that the one on Mos Eisley?
Yeah, why not?
They
yes,
said-
it is. It is.
But they confirmed that the trailer doesn't take place on Tatooine. It's a different desert planet. I guess there's more than one.
Ooh.
Mos Eisley Spaceport.
And I don't think you can
Damn.
lose the Force because it's midichlorians and it's terrible.
I
and
refuse
don't
to.
want
I refuse to acknowledge that.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dan. I'm with you.
we all wish that
Let's
never
keep
happened.
it spiritual, not
Alrighty.
biological.
Well, in light of some of the facts, I think I'm leaning towards Mantz, but Spencer, what do you think?
Wow. I kind of went down a rabbit hole of what's canon and what's not in Star Wars and was really busy checking that for
Yeah.
most of Mantz's answer. So
Yeah.
you might not want to call on me. That said,
Okay.
I do think that in the discussion section, I just can't get behind. I don't think Dan sold me on an evil Luke Skywalker,
Yeah.
personally. It seems like sacrilege. I know you can say if they do it right, it's right, but that's a big if.
Alrighty. Well, I like what Mantz was saying about teasing Luke and having come in the end and then having him to be a big part of the following films, and also about it's about family, and so the family will play a big part in this one. So I'm saying Mantz gets the point.
That's with the points. He's back in the game.
Woo!
Ding.
Okay, now to something that I know more about. Round 3. Bill Murray's latest film, Rock the Casbah, opens this weekend, and he's turned in a lot of great performances over the years. But Ira222 asks, what is the best Bill Murray performance? And this time, Dan, we're starting with you.
Well, how do you even choose? There's so many to choose from. For me, it was down
Do
between
it.
two.
Do it.
It was between Lost in Translation and Rushmore for me, and I went with Rushmore because, and I went back and watched it again last night. Rushmore is the genesis of the Bill Murray that we know today.
Agreed.
That was kind of the turning point in his career. He'd done some in the early '90s and mid '90s some disappointing comedies like the Elephant Movie and things like that. And I think he kind of knew that he'd kind of been playing the comedic actor for a very long time, and he wanted to try something different. And Rushmore was the start of that. And here he plays this character, Mr. Bloom, who is in the midst of a midlife crisis. He hates his kids. He doesn't particularly like his wife. He's very unhappy. And yet he's likable. He plays this kind of guy, and the only reason that you like him is because Bill Murray is able to show you that his sadness inside, and you feel for this guy, even though he does terrible things. He goes to war with a high school kid and runs over his bike. So you have that side of it where he's able to just kind of externalize the sadness without going over the top, without a big breakdown scene. It's a very insecure man, even though he's successful. But on the other end, it's a hilarious character, and Bill Murray gets to do something in Rushmore a lot that he doesn't get to do a lot in his other movies, strangely, which is a lot of physical comedy. And it's the combination of that plus the character, you're able to kind of externalize the inner turmoil of this character, keep him funny, keep him entertaining. You fold in the physical comedy. There's just so many scenes where he's just awkward. He doesn't know how to talk to people. Like he's talking to Olivia, I forgot her name.
Williams.
Olivia
Williams.
Williams on the porch, and she's like, "I'm eating carrots. Do you want one?" And he just goes like, "Yeah, I'll have one of those." Like, it's just such an awkward conversation, and the fact that he was able to do so much with that character without going over the top. It was a completely different side of Bill Murray, so that's why I'm going with Rushmore.
All right, Rushmore, good choice. Mantz, up next.
Okay, my choice. First of all, I agree with you completely. Rushmore was a game changer for Bill Murray, thanks to Wes Anderson, who he worked with like a lot.
Yeah.
It changed the direction of Bill Murray from the type of character he was playing in what I think is his best movie and his best performance, which is Groundhog Day, 1993. And I'm telling you, that movie is just brilliant. It is a masterpiece. It was only done one other time, which was called Edge of Tomorrow, sci-fi movie. But
forget
and
what
that
it's
was like
called.
Groundhog Day with aliens. But the reason that Groundhog Day is the performance of his career is because it is the quintessential Murray role, going back to what he was doing in Stripes, in Caddyshack, in Meatballs, in Ghostbusters, taking it to another level because it was the first time you established Bill Murray as a romantic leading man, and he knocked it out of the park. He goes through an incredible arc, being bitter and unlikable, and he shows a tremendous amount of vulnerability that he did not really show again until Lost in Translation, which was my second choice, by the way. And then to sort of end the movie, spoiler alert, being this guy that you like, and that Andy McDowell falls in love with him repeatedly, and you buy it. He won me over, he won her over, he won everybody over. This movie, Groundhog Day, as brilliant as it is the movie that has everything you want for in a Bill Murray character. And it does hint, because of that vulnerability, it does hint at what was to come in movies like Rushmore and Royal Tenenbaums and Lost in Translation.
Phil
Connors?
Connors. All right, Grae, what's your choice?
Okay, picking your favorite Bill Murray performance is like picking your favorite sex position. It's all sex. It's all great. So, roses are red, violets are blue. I'm a schizophrenic, and so am I. What About Bob is Bill Murray's best performance because in this role, Bill Murray actually is a lovable, kind, annoying person as opposed to coming from a place of darkness like he so often does. Which isn't to say that he's not great in those roles, but this was a 180-degree turn. This kind of character, I think, engenders a lot of goodwill on behalf of the audience that Bill Murray pulls off without making it saccharine and weird. Because let's face it, that character was terrible. He was like, you don't want that guy following you to your vacation. But Richard Dreyfuss gets to be the bad guy in that film. And Bill Murray is this charming, sweet guy who just wants to be loved, causing us all to like really bring out those feelings in ourselves. And I think unlike any other Bill Murray performance, something that he does in What About Bob is actually incredibly serious and really applies to our world, which is that when you see a comedy, you're a lot more willing to accept the ideas that it's putting forth because you're comfortable. And he spotlights mental illness in that film. Like, he's seeing a psychiatrist in the beginning. He's also making jokes about Tourette's later on. And because people can watch that film and feel comfortable, they might actually feel understood. They might actually get the help that they need because they saw somebody like Bill Murray kind of taking that thing in stride. And I think that is unheard of in any of his other films.
It's a great film. All right, open floor.
Okay.
Counter arguments. Whoa, that was loud.
Here's what I'm going to say. First of all, Dan, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. The problem is that Rushmore, Bill Murray's character, it's a supporting role. It's not his movie. It's Jason Schwartzman's. So
I think that's up to people's deliberation.
Well,
actually,
my deliberation. I got the floor right now.
Okay,
Grae,
Scott.
is that Rushmore? It's a great film. I love it. It's one of Wes Anderson's best movies. Jason Schwartzman, breakthrough role, and a game changer for Bill Murray. But it was like, as they say in What About Bob, baby steps. You're baby stepping Bill Murray into the character, the type of role that he was playing, into the ones that he played since in movies like Lost in Translation, Broken Flowers, and even his latest movie, Rock the Casbah, which isn't very good. But, and the thing about What About Bob, I agree. I love that movie that came out in 1991, directed by Frank Oz, Is that right there, Spence?
It is,
Sure
right?
it is.
Okay.
That's
okay.
Directed by Yoda.
So, yes, Yoda. Woohoo! Bringing it back to Star Wars. Way to go, Leash. But the thing about What About Bob is that, yes, he's lovable. That's a good point that he does bring a light to mental illness. I never thought about that until just now. But he starts the movie, rather, he ends the movie as he started. He didn't really change. He didn't go through an arc. Everyone else did, but not Bill Murray. In Groundhog Day, he went through a tremendous arc. He started the movie unlikable and bitter, and he learns a very, very, very powerful lesson over and over and over again until he learns to appreciate the right things and he becomes a good person, a vulnerable, loving person. It is an incredible arc. And just one more thing about Rushmore, Dan, is that Bill Murray's character, also debatable, but I don't think that he's likable in Rushmore. I think he's funny, but he is not likable. I didn't like his character, but he's funny.
In What About Bob, Bill Murray's character actually doesn't have to go through an arc because what he's doing is much bigger than just being that character. And I think that the Bill Murray in both of the films that you're talking about are a reflection of our world more as they are now, which is dark and it is and sad. And that to me is it's just depressing to think about. Like, I want to see Bill Murray. I want to see him exemplify like a happier time. I want to see him be the beacon of light because it's not something that he's chosen to do very often because he's so good at being the guy in those movies, right? Like, that's what he does. That's his, dare I say something so arrogant as crutch. What about Bob is different. And it's powerful.
I mean, they're both great movies. Groundhog is one of the greatest comedies ever made. What
Yes,
About
it
Bob?
is.
I think is shamefully forgotten. That's a great.
It's an underrated movie.
That's a
Yep.
really good movie. Dreyfuss and Bill Murray are both good on that.
Don't hassle me, I'm local.
Baby steps. Baby steps, Marvin.
To hit back with you, Mantz, a little bit, I don't think it matters that the Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker was a supporting performance. It doesn't matter if it's a lead or a supporting performance. It's quality, not quantity, I think. And I think he's almost a co-lead. I think if you were going to go to screen time, yes, Max Fisher has a lot of screen time, but he's also in a lot of the movie. Secondly, I think that he's likable. I think that he goes through an arc, as you will. He goes from this kind of detached, unlikable guy. They go to war, and then by the end, you see that he's kind of acknowledged the sadness within him, and that he at the end of the movie, he's supportive and he's a good man and he's on the mend. It would appear. Here's why Rushmore stands out to me, is when I think about Groundhog Day, I'm like, oh man, Bill Murray was so funny in that movie. And when I think about What About Bob, I think, oh man, Bill Murray was so funny in that movie. And when I think about Rushmore, I'm like, wow, Bill Murray was great in that movie. And I think that's the difference. I think both of your choices underline incredibly well that Bill Murray is extraordinarily funny. And he absolutely is. He's one of the great comedic actors that we have. But I think Rushmore was the one that people came out of it saying, like, I knew he could do that. I didn't know he could do that. And that's why Rushmore stands above a little bit, is that Groundhog Day and What About Bob are great Bill Murray comedic performances, and I agree that there are dramatic elements to it, but I think Rushmore was at a completely different level, and still is.
I agree with you, Dan, but in Groundhog Day, he becomes not just a better person, but the best person someone could possibly be. He tries to save lives. He develops an incredible amount of remorse and vulnerability. He learns to love others. He learns to love himself. He learns to appreciate everything. And again, as a romantic leading man, that was something we never really saw him do before. And that happened before Rushmore, 5 years before.
All right, Grae, quick counter arguments against these two?
No,
Anything to add?
You know what? There are two types of people in this world.
Uh-oh.
Those who like Neil Diamond and those who don't.
I like Neil Diamond.
Good way to end it. Spencer, facts?
Yeah, according to the internet, Bill Murray's great. Everyone loves him.
Oh, way to go.
Breaking
We did
news.
not know that, Spence.
Confirmed. Bill Murray, great.
And this just reminds you of all the great films he's been in. I have to rewatch What About Bob again. I haven't seen it in so long.
Oh, it's so...
Rushmore's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day is a staple. But I have to say, Grae, you really sold me on this one because I just love the way you spoke about comedy being a place to accept ideas and how What About Bob accepts mental illness, how Richard Dreyfuss is actually the bad guy in this, and it's nice to see Bill be a beacon of light, which we haven't seen in a long time. So Grae gets the point.
Hooray!
Which actually means that, it's a three-way
Three-way
tie, which is making
We
it
just got good.
It's making it hard on myself.
Tied up at the halfway point.
All right, round 4.
Do it.
Halloween is right around the corner, which means it's time for scary movies. And a horror movie is only as good as its monster. Wah-ah-ah. So A Close One asks, who is the best horror movie villain of all time? Mantz, you were up first.
Okay, well, here's Johnny. Jack Nicholson in The Shining, which came out in May of 1980, directed by Stanley Kubrick. That movie is the scariest movie of all time, and Jack Torrance is the scariest villain of all time because he does not wear a mask. He doesn't come at you in your dreams. He's not supernatural. He doesn't keep his mouth shut like Michael Myers in the Halloween movies. He is a father. He is a husband. He has issues, and he is no match for the ghosts at the Overlook Hotel, and his descent into madness is extremely disturbing, and his family is trapped, and he comes at them with the axe. It is terrifying. It is disturbing. It gets under your skin. When I first saw The Shining back in 1980, thanks to my mom and dad, May 25th? Is that right? May 25th, Spence?
23rd, buddy.
23rd! Oh! 2 days off! Damn!
That's good.
I was just 2 days off, Spence. But my parents took me to see that movie. It speaks volumes about this guy. But for years, to this day, every time I see a Jack Nicholson film or him in a trailer, there's something in the back of my mind that says, Jack Torrance. That role was unforgettable. He was just one movie. You don't need sequels to be a horror movie villain. All you needed was one, and he killed it literally. It is a masterful performance, unforgettable. I'm going to quote the great Hal Rudnick and say, it is iconic.
Oh, here it is. The I
think that was
word.
another one that was supposed to be banned.
The
I
I
forgot
word.
to say it at the start.
Iconic, but it is unforgettable. It is terrifying. I could watch The Shining right now. I've seen the movie maybe 50 times, and it would scare the shit out of me. It is excellent.
Okay, Grae, who do you pick?
Duck, duck, duck. Baba Duck, baby! Bursting onto the scene last year in a movie that was on no one's radar and succeeded because of word of mouth. The Babadook is scary as hell, y'all. And in horror movies, the key balance that you need to strike is between being ambiguous enough that there's something left to your imagination while still giving you enough information that you can be scared and feel like you're watching a movie that has a forward motion. And the Babadook is a perfect example of a character that delivers that exact thing. Because starting a movie that's just about a single mom, you're like, okay, Mama's another good example of something like that. Like, it's family. These are their kids involved. Like, this is a great place to begin. And the Babadook shows up. And first of all, you don't even see the Babadook, right? And that's one of the best things about him. He doesn't show his face often. And when in the movie, when he shows up, it leaves a really lasting impression. So I love the fact that the Babadook is messing with that kid. Like, the fact that it goes after the child makes him really evil, and a lot more evil than the majority of horror movie guys, because they'll just go after anybody that's like having sex in the campground, right? And the Babadook seems very deliberate in its choices as to who it's going after and how it's going after them. So when you're seeing it through the eyes of the child, you're like, oh my God, I have no frame of reference for anything because the kid is the only frame of reference you've got. You probably relate more to the mother in the story if you're an older person. And the fact that you don't know what's going on and the Babadook never lets you know what's going on makes it a terrifying character. P.S. The Babadook even promotes literacy by leaving books of itself to scare the crap out of the kids, which is an element that we've never really seen with a horror movie baddie before. Because, like, that just makes it that much more insidious, right? It tricks the kid into getting on its side. And you're thinking, like, well, it doesn't seem good. And it looks really scary. And just the physical construction of the Babadook as an illustration is upsetting. And it only gets worse from there. Even by the time that you see what is lurking, your imagination is filling in the gaps for something that is considered like it could be a pretty simplistic character design.
Ooh, nice. Okay, Dan?
I mean, there was one movie monster that kept me up at night when I was a kid, and that was Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger is perhaps one of the only movie monsters to become a pop culture icon. People started out being afraid of Freddy Krueger, and then people started loving Freddy Krueger. And why do they love Freddy Krueger? Because he's such a great character. He was on lunchboxes. The 1980s belonged to Freddy Krueger, and people say that cheapens him because he became a joke. I disagree. I disagree because people connected that character. They like that character. And when you want to see a horror movie, why do we go see horror movies? And I get that they're like The Babadook and The Shining. I think are in a bit of a different class than your general horror movie. Like Halloween, I love Babadook and The Shining, but when it comes around Halloween, I'm thinking Jason, I'm thinking Michael Myers, I'm thinking Freddy, I'm thinking all of these movies that have, the big villains. And the reason that Freddy is so great is that, and why he's so scary, and he is scary, you can't avoid Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger is going to get you. You can try to avoid Freddy Krueger, but you physically cannot avoid him. You will fall asleep. And once you fall asleep, it's not even like you're fighting on a neutral, you're not fighting in your own house. You can't run outside and go to the hedge maze. You can't talk to the Babadook and make him emotionally nice, I think. I like the movie, but the ending was a little, I don't know. Yeah. Freddy Krueger is unstoppable. Even if you kill him, he's still going to come back. He's a force of nature. And the reason that he's such a great villain is that he doesn't just stab you. He doesn't just come after you with an axe. He doesn't just scare you in the car. He constructs. The kills in the Nightmare on Elm Street series they're like, each one's like an art installation. They're so meticulously, especially like 3 and 4, meticulously designed and so creative. And it's like, that's why you go to a horror movie, is to see the kills, to see Freddy Krueger. And what other villain do you go? What other horror franchise do you go to go see the villain? That's how great of a character he is.
Oh, okay. Counter arguments. Wait, let's go to Grae first for counter arguments.
People don't go to the movies to see Freddy anymore because he has become a joke.
Agreed.
And Dream Warriors, although one of the most image-rich movies, I think, is starting the steady downfall of the integrity of that character because he was scary in the first one, especially. And the second one gets weird. And it only goes straight down from there. And Jack Torrance, although interesting in the fact that you never know precisely when the character goes mad, doesn't have a mask, just like you said, and he doesn't show up in your dreams, just like you said. And so he presents less of a threat on paper
Disagree.
than all of these other more supernatural monsters. Real life in that movie as it was presented didn't scare me as much as something like the Babadook that gets people to do its bidding, that doesn't it holds no and also doesn't have a whole franchise worth of shitty movies behind it to turn itself into a joke yet. And the Babadook is the jam.
I like the Babadook. It was a great surprise. And I agree with you that when you don't see something, it is scarier. That's why The Shark in Jaws was so scary. That was my second choice after Jack Torrance, actually. But everything that you just said about Jack Torrance, he doesn't wear a mask, all that stuff you just said is why he is scary. I'm sorry.
I know, I was quoting you.
I like Freddy Krueger. He's a fun character, but he's not a scary character. I like him. You're not supposed to like your villain. I mean, you're supposed to be scared of him. I was scared of Freddy in the first movie, which came out in 1984. It was Johnny Depp's first movie. But after that, I stopped being scared of Freddy Krueger. He became fun to watch, but I wasn't scared anymore. And the Babadook, again, good movie, great surprise. If right now it's a cult movie, I don't think it's a classic. It could be. I think perspective will be needed. The Shining is a classic movie. It is the ultimate haunted house story. It is the perfect movie to watch on Halloween. And the fact that Jack Nicholson plays a father who is descending into madness. And just like you pointed out in the Babadook, a child is at stake here. I mean, a wife too, but the child who has like this vision, that there's no remorse, especially towards the end of the film when Jack Nicholson is chasing Danny Torrance through the maze. Danny boy, with the axe. I mean, it's terrifying. It is terrifying. And that scene when Scatman Crothers comes to the Overlook Hotel after going through all that stuff in the snow and everything, and he opens the door and he's like, hello, anybody home? And Nicholson comes out with the axe and slams him in the stomach and just keeps digging it in. And then that look that Nicholson comes back with as he's like rising, with that jaw, that clench, he is beyond the point of no return. This could really happen to a person, to a man who could lose control. That's what makes it disturbing. That's what makes it so goddamn scary.
Okay, I've got both your points. Dan, counter argument.
Jack Torrance is a great performance. It's
Yes, it
a
is.
great Jack Nicholson performance. There's no denying that. When I was 5, I never thought Jack Torrance was going to come and get me while I was sleeping. I thought Freddy Krueger was going to come and get me while I'm sleeping. And I think that's what transcends from performance to a great villain. You said people don't like to go in and love the villain. People love Hannibal Lecter. People love the Joker. People love Hans Landa.
But they're not scary.
But Hannibal Lecter is terrifying.
Was.
But people love to love their villains. And I know that you say, first of all, New Nightmare, which was the reboot, which is a great movie. Freddy Krueger was really, really scary in that movie. And Wes Craven proved that he can be a scary character. And even, I get the fact that there was definitely a decline in the movies. Absolutely. There's no denying that. But even throughout that, Freddy Krueger was still an entertaining monster, one who killed these teenagers creatively and at least made them interesting to watch, and he is the one that is a great villain to last the test of time.
Jack Torrance needed just one movie. Okay,
I've got it. Okay, Spencer?
Factually pretty clean. I think Movie Mantz is a scary movie monster himself with that reenactment of The Shining.
Come
Put
on,
chills
right?
in my spine.
See?
I was going to give you the hammer there to do it properly. All right, so I mean, The Shining is obviously a classic, but I feel like Dan, shot you down there, Mantz, with that you weren't scared when you were a kid about Jack coming to get you. And so I'm back and forth between Grae and Dan because I agree Freddy Krueger now has become a joke, but I remember being terrified of him, like you were saying, and Grae, Babadook is one of the cleverest horror films I've seen in a while. And what you said about, being scared enough, ambiguous, you didn't know what he was up to. But I am leaning towards, I'm going to go with Dan because even though, as you said, he's become a joke, that people love this character. And I think it's true that you can love your villains. I think it's a great thing to love your villains. Freddy Krueger is iconic. And that's why Dan gets the point. Sorry,
I object to this point.
By the way,
Sorry,
though,
sorry.
I think unanimously we can agree that nobody likes Shelley Duvall as much as they like that kid.
That's why the kid.
Yeah.
You're worried about Shelley Duvall. You're
pointed
worried
that
about
out.
the kid.
She was,
Okay, so the
that's a
score
weird
is
performance in that
2
movie from
for
her.
Dan and 1 each for Grae and Mantz. But we're up to round 5. Now, Halloween is also a time for ghosts and zombies, but let's pretend these zombies we're going to be talking about aren't so scary. Because Guillermo Moreno asks, which director would you bring back from the dead to make one more film? Grae, starting with you.
I would bring back Sidney Lumet, hands down, the director of films like 12 Angry Men, Dog Day Afternoon, and one of my personal favorites that is on my business card, Network. Because Sidney Lumet embodies everything out of classic film directors that I greatly admire, and he taught me a lot as an aspiring filmmaker, with the most important element of the way he approached movies being, from his book, talking about how you should honor actors. And when I was like early in my work, I was like, oh, actors, they're so crazy. They don't know what they're doing. And his words about them and about what they bring to the piece, because they are the piece. They're the ones that are saying the words that are written on a page.
Oh, yeah.
They are to be treasured. And his reverence for them turned my whole view around on how I treated performers. And you can see that in his films. you see that connection that he had with those people, and all the way that he treated films visually. I think, like, he talks about you should only shoot with prime lenses, you shouldn't even use zoom lenses because it's not how the human eye sees. That made me an even bigger fan of his films. And something that his movies embody is dissatisfaction with the world around you. And he gave us, along with Patty Chayefsky, certainly the screenwriter of Network, and several other mind-blowingly, kind of foreseeing films. It was like he had a crystal ball. I lost my train of thought because I was like, did I say Chayefsky right?
That's like right out of a Lumet movie.
You got it.
Right.
Dissatisfaction with the world.
So they're dissatisfied with the world, and that's our world. That's us now. The fact that, social media is the new Martin Luther King. It's the new way that we are going to get justice in our world. I think that Sidney Lumet is the perfect director to come back. His last movie, by the way, was Before the Devil Knows You're Dead.
Excellent movie.
Great
And
movie.
most directors, by the way, suck when they get old. And we can look at their filmography and be like, bro, you stink. And
2007, right? Was that 2007?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Doesn't matter.
And so I think that Sidney Lumet, with his reverence for both actors and for his respect for the audience and the way that he treated us like we're intelligent viewers, I think he's the perfect person to show us our world now, because as we live today, we are mad as hell and we're not gonna take it anymore.
Love it. This debate, by the way, is my jam. I'm having so much fun listening to this. I don't know how I'm going to choose. Dan?
We were just talking about one of his films, Stanley Kubrick. I think that Stanley Kubrick occupies a very interesting place in film history in that each one of his films is wholly unique and uniquely his vision, but he worked across every genre. Name me another director that made one of the best war movies, two of the best war movies ever made, Full Metal Jacket and Paths of Glory. One of the best sci-fi movies ever made. One of the best comedies ever made. One of the best horror films ever made. Several of the best dramas ever made. He made all of them.
13 films.
13 films. He made all of them. They were all across different genres, different tones, but they were still singularly unique to Stanley Kubrick. So if we're talking about bringing one person back for the dead to make a film, I'm going to go with Stanley Kubrick, because we don't have many of his films, and they were all very singular to him and him alone.
All right, Mantz.
I got to tell you, Stanley Kubrick was my number 2. Sidney Lumet was my number 3. The fact that you have a film that came out last year, A Most Violent Year, felt like a Sidney Lumet movie. But we haven't had a movie that felt like Stanley Kubrick since 1999, which was his last film, Eyes Wide Shut, a movie that I love. But I am going with the one who really could show them how it's done again, which is the great Alfred Hitchcock. They did not call him the master of suspense for nothing. Other directors have tried to replicate that. Other directors have tried to replicate his suspense. Robert Zemeckis in What Lies Beneath, great movie. The bathtub scene was great. M. Night Shyamalan in The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable and Signs had very, very good moments of suspense that ode to the master of suspense. But when you look at when Hitchcock was in his zone with Rear Window, with Vertigo, North by Northwest, Psycho, did I say Vertigo?
Yes.
Okay, Vertigo, yes. That, can you imagine what he would do today with today's topics, with the politics, with social media, with terrorism? If he got like a fresh story, but still was able to infuse that level of suspense and terror that only he did and that other directors tried to do but could not do. And yeah, Kubrick, 13 movies. I love Kubrick. Again, he was my number 2 choice. And I do love Sidney Lumet.
It's not time for counter-arguments yet.
But okay, but
being harsh
I mean,
on that.
Hitchcock, his movies are timeless. And if you had one last time with Hitchcock to do something new in a way that only he could do it, I would kill for that.
All right. Okay, now counter-arguments. And Dan, I want to start with you.
Sure.
Do you know what kind of movie you'd like Stanley Kubrick to make? Any kind of genre?
Whatever he wants to make. That's the
Anything.
thing is he can make literally any kind of movie work but you can still watch it and know almost instantly that it's a Stanley Kubrick movie. And that's kind of why he stands out for me, is that Sidney Lumet was an amazing director, but we still get great dramas all the time. Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense, obviously, but Hitchcockian is a term, and you have filmmakers like Brian De Palma. Even this year's The Gift with Joel Edgerton, I thought had some very Hitchcockian moments. So
Extremely.
I think that we still get movies in the style, maybe not as well done, but in the style of Alfred Hitchcock today. They've used the tools of the trade and in some ways built on them. Steven Spielberg, potentially the greatest filmmaker on the planet right now,
I agree.
could not replicate Stanley Kubrick's style.
Agreed.
And he tried with AI, and it came off as a cheap imitation.
Yeah.
Even he couldn't do it. So if I'm picking one, it's the guy that nobody can make something like, and that's Kubrick.
But you see, that is precisely why Hitchcock coming back for one more film would be everything that you said about Kubrick, but better. Because, yeah, The Gift was very Hitchcocky. I mean, the fact that the wife was in a hotel room number 237,
Yeah.
that was Kubrick. But again, not close enough. But but once Kubrick started to get older, the time between his movies got longer and longer and longer. That's why it was 12 or 13 years between Full Metal Jacket and Eyes Wide Shut. That was actually 12 years because Full Metal Jacket was 1987 and Eyes Wide Shut was 1999. But I mean, I'm with you. I'm just short of Kubrick, giving it to you for Kubrick because it's Hitchcock. What do you got?
Okay, Grae.
Both of those directors, obviously Hitchcock's place in film history and with the constant imitations is very important. But like Kubrick, who swings for the fences every film, has wildly uneven movies as a result. And even it's like Barry Lyndon. What's that movie about? I know Ryan O'Neal's in it and there's duels and stuff, but it's obviously no one was in a position to tell Kubrick no. I think as a result, that means that Kubrick's films are a lot more successful as conversation pieces about what you agree and what you disagree about plot-wise. To me, Hitchcock is suspense.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And that's period. Whereas Sidney Lumet put forward so many ideas and got so many conversations started that are still so valid, that live long beyond the film release of the movie in theaters. Sidney Lumet's movies are completely timeless.
But
Okay,
can I just
final
say,
thoughts.
I mean, because you mentioned Patty Chayefsky as well, and I think that Patty Chayefsky gets a lot of credit for Network as well as Sidney Lumet. And a lot of these stories were written by writers that were not, that he adapted their scripts. And again, I see what you say about Kubrick's unevenness, but you even said even his uneven films inspire discussion. And we have so few Kubrick movies that even the ones that aren't perfect, I'll take an interesting Kubrick oddity over something that might just fit into the same genre.
Did you like Eyes Wide Shut? Just curious.
It's a converation piece.
Okay, all right, that's a whole other conversation. I did like Eyes Wide Shut
Yeah.
a lot. It's the movie that changed my career. But listen, you look at a movie like Vertigo. When that movie came out in 1959, it got very mixed reviews. It was not a box office hit. That is why his next movie, Psycho, had to be done on such a low budget.
And why wouldn't you want to see Kubrick or Lumet?
Well, I would want to see them. I would want to see a Lumet movie. I felt like I just saw one in the
Once
most violent
again,
year.
favorite
And
sex position.
I would like to see a Kubrick movie. I'm not saying I wouldn't like to see them. I
Yeah.
just want to see Hitchcock more.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there is a lot more to his movies. They are movies that have gotten some of them better over time. They've gotten more love over time. The fact that Vertigo actually topped, I'm just going to say it this one last time, it actually topped Citizen Kane on the Sight and Sound poll recently as the best movie ever.
Great.
That is huge. And I think people really miss Hitchcock because the fact that they are trying to replicate
All right.
him but can't.
Ding!
Damn.
Spencer. Were all those dates correct?
Yeah, yeah, you got the dates. It was 12 years between Hitchcock's second to last and last movie. Grae brought up an interesting point about how Sidney Lumet finished really strong. All of the directors had great movies at the end of their career, so they all managed to keep it. So good
And
for them.
they're
Hitchcock's
all
was
Check
what?
on the word great, please.
Wait, Frenzy was Hitchcock's last movie, right? Frenzy?
Hitchcock's was Family Plot.
Family
Family
Plot.
Plot.
76.
And they're all certified fresh.
using Rotten Tomatoes.
Keep the
I
gloves
like
up.
it.
Good plug.
God, this is like a three-way Sophie's Choice because I love all these directors so much. So Stanley Kubrick, like we said, he's very unique and he's made all different genres. And I think every film fan would die to see another Kubrick and see what he would do today. But I gotta say, I'm giving the point to Grae because Grae really sold me with Sidney Lumet being
Way to go,
appropriate for
Grae.
today. And all his great films and how he honors actors, he has a reverence for the audience, and they are great conversational pieces that I think I would love to see his take on everything that's happening today. I'd love to see his take on movie fights. That would be great. So that means, it's a tie. Attica. It's a tie between Grae and Dan on 2 points. Mantz, 1 point. You got a chance. Come on. All right, round 6.
Heat is on.
Here's a question selected for me because I'm today's guest judge. Australia has a long history of fantastic actors, but Hawken to Hawkins asks, who is the best Australian actor? This is a hard one. Dan, you're up first.
I mean, best. That's so hard to quantify, and I went back and forth because it's a long list.
Yeah.
I went with, in absence of another tiebreaker, I went with versatility, and I went with Hugh Jackman. Because Hugh Jackman is a guy, he's maybe the only guy in Hollywood right now who can do anything. He can play Wolverine, and he can play John Valjean. This was, I had to go back, this was Hugh Jackman's year in 2006. He did The Fountain with Darren Aronofsky. He did The Prestige with Christopher Nolan. He did voices for Flushed Away and Happy Feet. He played Wolverine in X-Men 3, and then he did a Woody Allen film. And I realize that X-Men 3 gets a lot of bad rap, but he's good in all of those things. He can literally, whatever role you need him to play, drama, last year in Prisoners, he was fantastic.
Yes.
He can do comedy. He can do musical comedy. He can do musical drama. He can do anything that you ask him to do. So in a long list of prestigious actors, I got to go with Jackman.
And he's a nice guy as well.
Oh.
Mantz, who do you pick?
Nicest.
Hugh Jackman was my number 2.
Yeah, right?
He really was. My number 1 is Cate Blanchett. You want versatility, baby, you got it with Cate Blanchett. She can do drama. She can do comedy. She did 6 movies between the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy. So she has been in some of the highest grossing movies of all time. She can do comedy. She poked fun at herself in Hot Fuzz. She gave one of the greatest performances of all time in Blue Jasmine. She also did voiceover work in an animated movie, How to Train Your Dragon 2. But she also can play a baddie. She was a baddie in Hannah. And she's got not one, but 2 great movies out before the end of the year. Truth, which is in theaters now, and Carol, which is fantastic. She could get nominated she should get nominated for both of them. She'll probably get nominated for Carol. But she's got 2 things, my friend, that Hugh Jackman does not have. 2 gold Oscars. Ooh. Supporting actress for The Aviator and Best Actress for Blue Jasmine. 2 very well-deserved Oscars, and it's not going to end there because she knocks it out time and time again. She's not just my favorite Australian actress, she is my favorite actress, period. And she is the Australian Meryl Streep.
Ooh, great.
Let me take you back to a time long before anybody was pulled over on the Pacific Coast Highway with a couple too many drinks in his system. Let me remind you of the days when a one-armed leather jacket sent us all into a frenzy. Mel Gibson is the best Australian actor, and I will tell you that you guys are talking about versatility in roles. Versatility in roles on set belongs to Mel Gibson. Because no, he hasn't sung in movies necessarily. He wasn't the singing detective, but he's not known for taking a wide range of personas necessarily. However, I think that he's one of the actors that has been most successful in making the leap behind the scenes. Apocalypto was one of the most extraordinary films that had come out in a long time because he decided to do something nobody really has the confidence to do. And that's tell a story about non-white people, first of all, and then have them not talk. They're not talking, they're not translated when they do talk, and that means you have to be a great storyteller. The reason he's such a great storyteller is because he's also a great performer. His movies average 62 million, and that's including what women want, right?
Yeah.
And
2000, right?
I think it's not long enough. And I think that when he started out as a grindhouse actor in Mad Max, like, he went to the Institute of Dramatic Arts in Sydney, so he's no joke. But I mean, I don't think that people understood the impact that he would have on cinema. I don't think that there was a kid that existed in the world that didn't want to be able to dislocate their shoulder to get out of a straitjacket like he could in Lethal Weapon, right? Mel Gibson, the reason that it tortured us so much when he fell as a human being is because on screen, that was movies. He was movies, right? He was in so many important films to all of us. And Mad Max, I mean, just the imitators of that alone, I think, is worth giving him the crown as the best Australian actor. And may I say, I think his greatest role of all time is the one that he played his whole life, making us think that he's a nice guy who likes Jews. So...
Got that.
Alrighty, counter arguments. Have at it.
Okay, here's the deal. Once you start bringing up Mel Gibson as a director, that's taken out of the equation because we're talking about the movies he acted in. And yes, he is a very, very good actor. I love the Lethal Weapon movies, and I loved him in Braveheart. And he won Oscars for Braveheart, but not for acting, for directing. And I think he won one for producing it too. I can't recall. Spencer?
Let's find out.
Let's find out. But as a performer, good actor, definitely a bankable star until he became his own worst enemy. And Hugh Jackman, again, versatility, and he is an absolutely nice guy. When it comes to promoting his films, he definitely took a page out of the Tom Cruise handbook and will sign autographs for everyone and is nice to members of the press like us, which makes us feel very, very good when we interview him. But again, I bring it back to Cate Blanchett because I feel like even though we've seen her win 2 Oscars already, and we've seen so many great, great performances, I still feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg with Cate Blanchett. The best is yet to come with her. She makes great, great choices. And even a movie that I did not think I was going to like, Notes on a Scandal, is definitely in one of her top 5 best performances and best movies ever. She's just so, so great. She could do anything. When she talks in an American accent like she did in Blue Jasmine, I totally forgot that she was Australian. Again, she is the Australian Meryl Streep.
The reason that I bring up the fact that Mel Gibson is such an accomplished person behind the scenes is because that is directly influenced by the fact that he's not just a puppet. He's not just an actor that says other people's words. Like, he really brings something to the world of storytelling and cinema that most actors could only dream of over so many decades. And so that power and that ability really just made him a force to be reckoned with. Oscars, hardly a gauge of someone's quality as an actor.
Two?
You know who never won? You know who never won an Oscar, Mantz?
Yeah, Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes,
Thank
exactly. Oscars don't mean anything.
But they don't hurt. Da, da, da.
Dan,
pretty.
what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Mel Gibson, I agree.
And neither did Stanley Kubrick, by the way.
I know. Oscars don't matter. I'm not bringing Oscars into my. I'm not bringing Oscars into my equation.
I am.
Mel Gibson, if it was Best Australian Movie Star, Mel Gibson is one of the great movie stars. I think that he plays funny Mel Gibson, shouty Mel Gibson, angry Mel Gibson, and wants Scottish Mel Gibson.
But always sexy.
But always sexy Mel Gibson, absolutely. Cate Blanchett, again, fantastic actress. She had like one line in Hot Fuzz. It's not really, you can't even see her face. It's not really a great comedic performance.
Hey, look, it's still for poking fun at herself.
I'm not going to bring it. This isn't for awards prestige. Like I said, I'm not going to bring this up as a winner thing. But the fact is that Hugh Jackman, Cate Blanchett may have won 2 Oscars. Hugh Jackman has been nominated for an Oscar. He's been nominated for a Grammy. He's been nominated for a Tony. He's been nominated for an Emmy. He can't just act in movies. He can act on stage. He can do whatever. That for me, we don't have that kind of actor anymore. Hugh Jackman, that is a throwback to like the 40s and 50s, the kind of actors we used to have back then who grew up on the stage, who could do whatever you asked them to do. And over time, movie stars became very kind of singular and focused and found their niche and did well in that niche. And Hugh Jackman is unlike anyone else in Hollywood currently because I've yet to see him fail at doing something. Even if he's in a bad movie, He's always good in it. I didn't like The Fountain at all. Hugh Jackman was really good in that movie.
Okay,
Did you see
go.
Heaven with Kate Blanchett? It came out in 2000, directed by Tom Tykwer. I think
No.
it was 2002. That movie was kind of an interesting experiment, but she was superb in that film. It was supposed to be part of a trilogy, but this was 13 years ago that movie came out, I think, and she was fantastic in that film. And again, just because she doesn't have a Grammy, we're not talking about singing. We're talking about actors. We're talking about performances.
But that is a skill set that an actor can possess. Is that musical ability, as we saw in Les Miserables.
She's just still getting started.
Grae, get in there.
Mel Gibson is in the movie Fights opening.
Ding! All right, Spencer?
Factually pretty clean. All told, you guys made some great points.
You know what? I was completely sold on Kate Blanchett. One thing you didn't mention, Mantz, she has a long history with theatre. So you could have counted Dan, like she was the head of Sydney Theatre Company. So that would have been your boop, drop the mic moment. But because of that, Dan, you get the point for Hugh Jackman saying he's versatile and not just singular, which means, Mantz, you now have to help me with the speed round.
Gotcha.
Good,
Movie
well
Mantz.
Played. Great arguments. I mean, they're all so good.
Watch
And-
all the speedrun questions be movie release dates.
Yeah, I know. You're like, God damn it.
Damn! Torture!
And so Dan with 3 points, Grae with 2 points going into the speed round. Now this is your chance to win 5 more points for the game. The panelist with the lowest amount of points at the end or even before then is out. I'll ask a question. We're looking for fast answers. Whoever answers first will get their 15 seconds, followed by the next person with their 15 seconds. If you answer the same thing, it's whoever says it the fastest, and then you get a 5-second rebuttal after you've done your argument. Are you ready?
Ready.
Yeah.
Ooh, let's play. I'm even nervous being on this side. Okay, these 2 movies are in the bargain bin, and you have to buy one. Which do you choose? The Pacifier or the Tooth Fairy?
Definitely the
Pacifier.
Tooth Fairy.
Okay, Pacifier, Tooth Fairy. Grae, I heard you first go.
The Rock is a man for all seasons. He is so fun to watch. That smile is absolutely blinding. He's charming no matter what he does. And the movie is something we can all relate to. Who didn't put that quarter under their pillow? We love you, The Rock.
Okay, Dan.
We could see The Rock do great things in good movies. You can't see Vin Diesel doing the Peter Panda dance in any other movie except for The Pacifier. That's one of the great moments that I've ever seen. Tooth Fairy, I'd rather see a good Rock movie. I'm never going to be able to see Vin Diesel do that again, so that's why I'm going with The Pacifier.
Okay, counter.
I can watch Vin Diesel dance on the internet and I don't have to waste my time with The Pacifier.
Hey, Dan.
I don't really want to waste my time with either one, but I think The Rock is good in a lot of other movies.
All right. I know where I'm heading. What do you think, man?
I'm going with the Tooth Fairy, The Rock.
Yep, Tooth Fairy, The Rock. Spencer, what would you
Oh,
say?
I was leaning Pacifier.
Oh,
Judge.
Our
it's
judge.
up to me, Judge. Well, I like what Grae said about watching Vin Diesel dance on the internet, so I'm giving it to Grae.
Yay! Woo! Ding.
All right.
Never thought you'd cheer for the Tooth Fairy.
That's true.
Either.
All right, next question. Best movie with witch in the title?
Blair Witch Project.
Last Witch Hunter.
Okay,
Spoiler
this is gonna
alert.
be interesting. All right, ready, Dan, go.
Regardless of whether film school nerds liked it or not, the Blair Witch Project revolutionized the horror world. It basically invented the found footage craze that's still going on with Paranormal Activity. We have another Paranormal Activity opening. Plus, it's actually good. A lot of horror movies are bad. It's actually a good movie and a great idea.
Okay, Grae.
The Last Witch Hunter is done in such earnestness that it turns it into fantastic territory. Vin Diesel, based on a Dungeons & Dragons character. The movie's fun from start to finish. Don't let Michael Caine's presence make you think it's classy. Flaming Sword.
Flaming Sword.
I'm just going to side with one of the most innovative horror movies ever made. Not the weird Vin Diesel's immortal, but he goes bald.
Thanks, Grae.
I think that we do not need to be bringing his genetics on his mother's side into it to know that Last Witch Hunter is spectacular, bald or not.
All right, Mantz, what are you thinking?
I'm with Dan all the way. Blair Witch Project. A lot of people made fun of that movie, but everything you pointed out It is good, and it was innovative, and it's still being felt to this day.
What about you, Spencer?
I'm just mad she spoiled The Last Witch Hunter for me.
I know.
You can see that in the trailers.
Yeah.
Don't worry. The flaming sword comes very early.
I've been avoiding all trailers so that I could be surprised. Yeah, I'm going
right.
with Dan on this one.
Yeah, I agree. Dan gets the point. So that means we are 4 to
That's the one.
3. Woo!
I just panicked.
All right, guys, which is better, Back to the Future 2 or 3?
2.
3.
I did that for you, Mantz, because I know what you would go for. Okay, go.
Back to the Future 2 is such an intricate time travel story that folds back in and on itself that it is taught in screenwriting classes for a reason. It's an exemplary movie to teach you how to make a good film, and it doesn't take place in the Old West.
Okay, Dan.
You say intricate story, I say a bit of a confusing mess. Back to the Future 2 got caught up in all the nostalgia because this is 2015. Back to the Future 3 is superior because it goes back to the core of the story, which is Doc and Marty. There's so many shenanigans in Back to the Future 2 that get lost in the mix. Back to the Future 3 is a better movie.
Oh,
But it's Doc and Marty in a locomotive, and I can't get behind the way that the story unfolded too similarly to the first.
Dan.
I disagree. I like the new challenges for being in the Old West. I think that not being in the future was a refreshing change of pace, and it got to focus on the characters.
Oh, both great arguments. Spencer, what do you think?
Wow. Gosh.
Taking personal preference out.
Yeah, taking personal preference out. I hope that Back to the Future 2 isn't a lesson for screenwriters. I thought that was kind of muddled, but I also really hate Back to the Future 3. I feel like I should take myself out of this. I'm not as good of a judge.
All right, man.
I'm going to go with Back to the Future 3. I like Back to the Future 2, but I just watched all 3 movies back to back the other day, and I realized Back to the Future 2 is a mess. And yeah, it folds in on itself, but it wasn't about the character. Got Back to the Future 3, it was not only about character, but where the first 2 movies were about Marty, the third one was about Doc.
Yeah.
And it was about character, and it stayed put in the Old West. It's a better film.
Okay, well, I prefer personally Back to the Future 2, but I like what you said about Doc and Marty and Back to the Future 3, so we're going with Dan. That means it's 5 to 3, and you still have a chance. Grae, 2 questions left, and then a possible tiebreaker. So exciting. Okay.
Crunch time.
Crunch time. What is the best movie featuring Chris Rock? I like how it's silent.
Top 5.
Chris Rock. I'm trying to think what movies he's been in.
Yeah. It's tough.
It's in honor of him hosting the Oscars.
Oh, that's right. Pootie Tang.
All right, Grae, you are up first.
Chris Rock, responsible for being both behind the camera and in front of it. Top 5 is a really insightful view of his life from the man himself, expertly directed, and fantastic supporting performances. He was responsible for the whole thing.
Speaking of directors, do you know who directed Pootie Tang? Louis C.K. And that movie got a bad rap. It was mismarketed. It's not a bad movie. It's actually a funny movie. Top 5 is fine. I think it's a little too inside Chris Rock for me. I prefer it's more of a generic comedy.
Pootie Tang, coming in that era of films, especially like the SNL adaptations, is a comedy, fun at parties, forgettable.
I disagree. I think there's some jokes that really stand out, and people should really give that movie more of a shot.
I've never seen Pootie Tang. Spencer, what do you think?
I have. I'm curious what jokes stand out.
I'll tell you later.
Sadate. Yeah, I'm going with Grae on this one.
What would you say, Matt?
I'm going with Grae on this one.
Yeah.
I've never seen either.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow. Oh,
Dan.
Mission!
Dan, you are good at tricking us. Okay.
Props, Mike.
Last question, possibly, unless Grae gets the point, then it'll be a tiebreaker. Who is the best Mark in Hollywood?
Mark Wahlberg.
That's the only one I can think of is Mark Wahlberg. Mark.
Me too.
Mark. I'm blanking on Marks. Hang on.
Wow.
Anything happened this week?
Yeah, I'm blank on Marks. I can't
Blanking
think
on
of.
Marks?
I
Do you wanna-
I can't think of a.
Lifeline.
Do you want a lifeline?
Sure.
A
If you want to
lifeline.
give, if you
Is
want
that
to
a
give
thing?
me
A
one.
that a
lifeline.
Is that a thing?
Or will I get in
I'm not
trouble
gonna
for
turn
that?
it down.
Or
No, I've
do you
choked on
wanna
a
say
speed
no?
round. You get to choke
Yeah.
on a speed round this time.
Oh, Spence.
Okay.
Revenge, baby.
Fact checker
Is
says no.
that, is that
Yeah,
the rules? Okay,
that is
no,
the,
no
them's the
lifeline?
rules.
Hang on, just to make sure I can't.
Okay, you got
what's that guy? Mark.
5,
Mark.
4, 3, 2,
Yeah.
1. Okay, Grae gets the point, which
Ray's
means
got the
a
point.
tiebreaker.
Tie.
Woo, tie game.
I
This
got
is
nothing.
exciting.
I was thinking Mark Hamill.
Oh, Mark Hamill.
It's so hard when you're
I
sitting in
can't
that
mark.
moment.
How many marks are there?
I
Happens to the
know.
best of
Not
us.
many.
I struggle with that one. All right, tiebreaker time. What is the most inspiring film?
Shawshank Redemption.
I love being inspired in movies, and I'm getting overloaded by all the inspiration.
It's hard enough.
Selma.
Selma. Okay. Dan, you go first.
The Shawshank Redemption is about hope. You see this character go to the depths of despair, and you realize that no matter what personal prison you're in, figurative or literal, there's always hope. The movie ends on one of the most hopeful notes ever with his reuniting with Morgan Freeman, and it's just an inspirational story.
Rooted in real life, focusing on real people doing real things in our real world, and seeing the triumph of the human spirit is unparalleled and was a fantastic film.
Selma is a great story of a historic event, but I came out of that touched but not inspired necessarily. I came out of Shawshank Redemption with hope.
Shawshank Redemption is a fake story that is, I think, says something inspiring, but Selma more so.
All right. Ooh. Okay. Mantz?
And if you don't vote for me, then you hate black people.
Oh, here we go.
You pulled it out, didn't you?
Gosh.
He's activated the race card.
This
do you
card
think,
is
man?
activated. You're asking me? Like, I have to be the first one to go with Dan. I gotta go with Dan. You're right. I was
Spencer,
inspired.
what were you thinking?
Yeah, I've never seen Selma, so I guess that makes me the real racist here. But I think based on the arguments, I think Dan made a better call.
I do love both of these movies. I was inspired after both, but in the spirit of hope, I'm going to go with Dan.
Dan does it again! Dan
Dan.
does it again, brother!
Congratulations.
Way to
Dan.
go! Yes!
Congratulations,
Grae.
Grae. You came so close.
Yes.
Oh, and Mantz, you
That was
did
a nail
so
biter.
good too.
I had 1 point. I was not shut out. I'm
No,
happy.
yeah,
shutouts
you
here.
all swayed me so much. So we're out of time. What did you think of the show? How did I do in the hot seat? Be nice. Say nice things. Let us know in the comments below, and most importantly, let us know what you would like us to fight about in the upcoming weeks. And don't forget to subscribe to our RSS feed on iTunes. Rate and review us. You can listen to this wonderful voice in the car if you like. We also have a t-shirt store, districtlions.com/screenjunkies. Go there, get your merchandise. There's a sale right till the end of October. But let's thank our panelists, Scott Mantz at Movie Mantz. Where else can people find
Okay,
you?
follow me on Twitter at Movie Mantz. You can catch my reviews on Access Hollywood, Access Hollywood Live, and AccessHollywood.com. You can also catch us on Profiles with Malone and Mantz on YouTube.com/Popcorn Talk Network. We profile the greatest filmmakers, actors, and actresses of all time. Go to our Facebook page, Profiles with Malone and Mantz, and like our Facebook page. Join in on the fun with Profiles.
We should do Sydney Lumet sometime.
Yes.
Grae Drake at Grae Drake. Where else can
That's
people
me.
find you?
You can see my interviews on RottenTomatoes.com. And bonus, if you can tweet me and tell me what storyline I gave you for what film in my Luke is good. That's for you.
I didn't even pick that up. You are certified fresh in our
yay!
hearts.
Yay!
Thank you for coming.
Thank
and
you.
The champ at
Hi.
Murrell Dan.
At Murrell Dan, you can find me here on Screen Junkies. And I'd just like to
Beating
say
everybody.
apologies to Mark Hamill for both arguing that his character should be evil and forgetting that he exists.
I'm forgetting that he's a mark.
Yes.
Spencer Gilbert on the Spencam.
What's
Ben
up?
Cam.
At
Thanks for
Spencer
helping
J.
me.
Gilbert, thank you. Keep watching on his trailers. Dan, when are you going to put that belt in the line, man?
Ask Andy. Andy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's many worthy contenders now. And Stacey Howard, did you have fun?
I did. I had so much fun. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks for
Yay,
watching.
Stacey.
And your Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at SOHoward2012. And I also have a podcast with friend of the show, Miss Movies, who's been on a few
Hey.
times. It's called 6 Degrees of Feature
Yay, Miss
Film.
Movies.
So,
Awesome.
yay! So find us on iTunes and YouTube.
And you can find me at Alicia Malone on all the social media and my YouTube, Movies on My Jam, plus with this guy on Profiles. We will see you next week. Bye.
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 Every podcast we put on YouTube comes with this kick-ass graphic listing all the topics your favorite Screen Junkies podcasters are talking about. If you click the topics, you can skip around and choose your own podcast battle royale. Go ahead, try them all. If you haven't already, subscribe to Screen Junkies on YouTube to join us for future fights. Or if you prefer to listen on iTunes, click the logo to download an audio version.